Can you hear the music?
Oh yeah, it sounds great.
Oh, man, I had this made, customized.
Nice. Sounds great. I love the rock feel, man.
Oh man, it gets me
Keep the
right,
energy flowing.
right am. So pumped. Gets me right fired up to do a show, you know? Like,
Oh, it's got that nice drive to it. You see some good like Instagram reels going off with some motivating shit in the background.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Man, I saw an awesome rock this morning. Have you seen T-Pain doing Crazy Train?
T-Pain doing Crazy Train?
Yes.
I gotta look that up. I gotta find that.
Man, it's on Instagram. It's hot.
Ah,
If you like rock and you see it, man, you'll be a fan immediately.
hell yeah. All right. Welcome back to another episode of On the Throne with Dick. And shout out to, Senjin Boychik for that. Did I say Boychik? Boychuk for that amazing intro outro song you created. We're still trying to get the lyrics added, but like, hey, you know what? Whatever. It comes when it comes, and just like me. Awkward. So anyway, big shout out to Senjin Boychuk. And on this week's episode, we have David from The Trench, aka BoomNation. What's going on, man?
Hey, Dick. Thanks for having me, man. Really excited to be here.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I love what you guys are doing over at The Trench, and I love everything you guys. I follow everything, and I'm all about it. So like, Bluecollar podcast. You guys are Bluecollar. You guys have your own podcast now, I believe.
Yeah. We have two series that we're doing. We do one, BoomNation Presents, which is kind of from the company partner side. So companies that we do business with, people like we may help with recruiting services for. We allow representatives from their companies to kind of come on and tell their story, what it's like working with their company, being in their industry, working with that trade. And then we have Long Live the Trades, which is kind of more of the craft people themselves telling their story about their journey and what it's like, to do their type of job. Sometimes you get the guys that have started their own business and, have things, kind of propped up and making a go of it themselves. And sometimes you have the guys that are working for the large corporations and they're just happy to have the job that they perform for that company and how they perform. But at the end of the day, it's all about the journey of the individual and having pride in what they do, just being a badass that makes shit happen.
That's huge, man. Bluecollar has sort of been shit on a lot over the last, few, maybe since the beginning of time, but definitely the last, couple decades anyway, few decades here. And it's good to have, someone like you guys representing us, right? Like sort of like you guys got a Facebook page, you guys have a newsletter online, Instagram, and I've actually been featured in the Trench newsletter once. So yeah.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah.
You've
probably been around longer than I have. I only joined the team back in September. Kind of came over. I worked in the service industry for a while. I had worked most of my career in oil and gas, a lot in the refining and petrochem side of the business. So, a lot of time out at the plants and guys from the trades from every different aspect that keep those places running and keeping up with the maintenance. I was kind of focused on the safety side of it. So, we were a service provider to each of those companies that were doing the real work. And then, I did some work in the soft craft or mixed craft business. So I went to work for one of my clients at the time. And we did scaffold, insulation, and paint. So I knew the struggles of trying to keep up with, hiring up hundreds of guys for a turnaround and trying to keep those guys going for, say, 45 or 60 days, the duration of a project, or having guys that were working maintenance, and you really needed people that were going to be there year round and hopefully year after year. So just kind of taking that approach of being able to shift what the opportunity was from the customer, what the need was, and to finding the right type of people that wanted to do that right type of work. So it's really kind of, turned out to be a pretty good fit here at BoomNation, where we're just asking people to be themselves. We're not asking, guys to be anything other than that. Be proud of the job that you do. Be willing to show up, dedicated to your craft, care about the community that you're in. Have fun is the best part about it. There's no need to be too stuffy about everything. And at the end of the day, we
Absolutely.
just end up being this community of blue collar skilled workers that didn't really have a place to come together before, and allow them to communicate and interact with one another the same way that they do at the job site every day.
Hell yeah, man. And that's kind of like how my brand started, right? It's on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, right? It was like a bunch of it started off as just me, right? And it was like, oh, I'm gonna make content that makes me feel better about my situation, right? Because like all I did was work. I was working over 100 hours a week, spent 20 days at home in 2 years over the course of the pandemic, and it was like, fuck, I need to do something else, right? I need an outlet. And that's how my content started. Well, I was just making it for me, and then whoever was watching came along. It was like, yeah, that's funny, right? And then it became a place for everyone else, blue collar, oil field, yada yada, to be like, hey, I can relate with what you're doing. And it went from it started in Alberta, where I'm from, or not where I'm from, but where I live now, and I might as well be from here. But it started in Alberta, and then it quickly went out to, like, neighboring Saskatchewan, and then like the Bakken, and then the Permian, and then it expanded overseas, right? And next thing you know, there's people from all over the world that are in my industry that are tuning in to see what I'm joking around about, and when I go live, they're tuning into my live streams and being like, hey man, I'm here in this part of the world, and I love your content. And it's become a pretty interesting community, right? It's something like exactly what you guys have, except for you guys have a whole team of people working behind you. And I got my wife. She sends me ideas for videos and stuff like that. And it's been a wild ride, man. This is going, I think, 2024 in November. No, it'll be August this year. So in like 8 months from now, it'll be 4 years since I started this.
Congratulations. That's a great accomplishment. One, it just shows a lot of your dedication of pushing through those times. Sometimes you may have conversations with guests. Sometimes you may be thinking to yourself, is this worth it? A lot of
Yeah.
time and effort that you put into it to making it happen and being prepared. But just like everything else in life, you've got to put in those days of the grind to really kind of establish yourself and have something to build on. So kudos
Oh
to you,
yeah.
man.
Yeah,
Job
man.
well
Well, the
done.
the podcast is actually a year old this week, so we're officially a year into it, right? We're
Nice.
365 days old on the podcast, and like you said, man, I've had amazing conversations with people outside of the content side of things. I guess this is content too, but you
Mhm.
know, the reason why I started it is because on TikTok and Instagram, we see 30-second to a minute long clips of people, right? You don't know nothing about them, right? What So we start the podcast, you get an hour and a half, close to 3 hours sometimes, of what this person's about, why they make content, and what makes them tick, what interests them. And I find that fascinating, and that this has gone far beyond anything I could have ever imagined it being, right? So
Were you a podcast fan before you started yours? Is that what generated the interest for you?
yeah, I was listening to different kinds of podcasts, right? So I'm a big fan of the history of the '90s podcasts, Basement Buddies, the guys out of New York, a little bit of Rogan, Theo Vaughn. I've gotten into,
Oh yeah.
so I was always interested in podcasts, and I just never knew where to start with my own, right? And I didn't think, until I started doing content and live streaming, I didn't think that I could, if this was in the realm of possibility, right? And when you live streaming is exactly like podcasting, except for on the podcast, you're sometimes you can do live. I could have live streamed it, but with the podcast, you could say some shit and edit it out, right?
Right.
Before anyone else hears it. Live stream, you say it, you own it, right?
That's right.
And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so my wife and I, we had a debate for a number of years, like I'm sure every other couple out there probably has done, but we had satellite TV forever. And she was constantly, why are we spending so much? We're spending like almost $300 a month on satellite. And
Jeez.
at the end of the day, the only thing I was trying to get out of it was we had some, movie channels we wanted to watch. We still had streaming services. I like to watch some sports, especially around football season. And then I wanted, local channels because we didn't have the antenna anymore the other way people used to have. And the deeper and deeper I got into podcast, the long format, that you're afforded by being able to listen to people have the conversations and see where, discussions take you. I found it to be so much more interesting than the bullshit I was getting from TV. And
Hell
I could
yeah.
really find the thing I was interested in that day, as opposed to what some programmer thought needed to be up on the schedule for, the next hour. And so finally, we just cut the cord and went away from it. I haven't missed it one day since. And
No.
I feel like I'm so much more engaged in everything that I care about because I'm not wasting time following any other bullshit that just doesn't really matter.
Yeah, man, exactly. And the podcasting world is only getting bigger, like it's becoming more and more popular. There's so much out there. Blue collar. There wasn't a whole lot of blue collar stuff out there, you know what I mean? And now it's like you're seeing more of it, right? You got the blue collar barbarians. I listen to that one now. I love that guy. He's coming on the podcast. We were actually supposed to have him on a few weeks ago, but shit happens. We had the Blue Collar Angst podcast on here. Oh my God, Blue Collar Angst. If you want to listen to a phenomenal podcast, the Blue Collar Angst podcast is top notch. And Oil Trash podcast, right in my neck of the woods, right? Like he's not far from where I work, and I'm gonna be on his podcast. He's been on mine. The Second Act podcast. Like that guy works in oil and gas, and he interviews other people that are in their second act of life. What they started out doing maybe not necessarily worked out for them, or it did work out for them. They just wanted to try something new, right? And yeah, no, Gord's the shit. I've had him on mine. I've been on his. I was on his not fairly early, like episode 40. That guy's on episode like 130 now or some shit like that.
Man.
Yeah, man. I like going on other people's podcasts. Like I don't have to run the show. I can sit back and let them, do their thing. And and but you can also cue into, okay, I got to kind of make it entertaining for them too a little bit, right?
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
Oh, it's always a great opportunity to learn. I mean, it's just like every other thing in life.
Yeah.
You probably learn a whole lot more from the people that you're exposed to and have a chance to interact with than you do from reading any damn book, watching any presentation. If you can just sit down and someone will give you their time, you get so much more from that. And I think that's the same thing that happens with a podcast. We just have the opportunity to record it and share it with anyone. And then for some reason, every now and then we find people that want to listen in.
Yeah, man. And so with your guys' podcast, you have a big audience on the internet, right? Like,
yeah, let me share a little bit about that audience just growing. And I've been completely surprised by this and happy. I mean, it couldn't be going better from what my expectations were going in. But you mentioned, the whole COVID bullshit in 2020 and those things that came around and kind of how it changed things for you in your career. I think it changed for everyone, right? One of the things that changed for me dramatically was I was the most anti-Facebook social media person you would find. And the reason for that was I was so busy with everything else coming in from work. I was getting hundreds and hundreds of emails every day, phone calls. I was in sales, so I'm constantly talking to someone. The last thing that I wanted to do whenever I got home was spend more time on a device, checking in with everybody, caring two shits what they were doing or anywhere else. It was just like, my wife can keep up with that. She'll let me know when there's a party we need to go to, or missed, right? But you got separated, for that time that everybody was, struggling to have any connection at all. I thought, well, man, I wonder what my friends are doing. And so I went ahead and signed up for Facebook. From Facebook, around that time, like everyone else, I started worrying about my health a little bit more, got back into the gym, training, bodybuilding, fitness, lifestyle, all those things. And so that kind of pulled me over to Instagram because that was the platform that was being used more for people in that industry and with that type of interest. From there, I just kind of became a little bit more involved, a little bit more engaged, and found just so much education that I never would have received before, and that I had missed in the decade prior, in the mid 2000s, when that just really wasn't a thing. We had MySpace, and everybody was friends with Tom, and that was
Yeah.
about it.
Yep.
You know,
Tom. We abandoned Tom for Mark. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I didn't even know you. I'd missed a full damn decade of that. By this time, and from that we end up, just as life happens, opportunities come along, careers change, and I end up with an opportunity to work at Boom Nation. And give you an idea of kind of the scale and reach of what we have. We have the Boom Nation app where people can download that on the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, all those places. We have 255,000 users of the app. So there's things on there for the news feed, a job board, recruiting campaigns, things like that we put up, opportunity for people to direct message, all the type of things you would find with your typical social platform, plus a couple of features, around recruiting and blue collar jobs. But then we're present on all those other platforms that everybody else uses too. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, podcast. Man, we went from a couple 100,000 of the Boom Nation app users to we now have a little over 260,000 people on the app.
Jeez.
Across all of the platforms, we just reached 800,000 followers. And then the fourth quarter of last year, if you look at the metrics of where we went from the number of accounts that we reached total, just really capitalizing on the network effect, we went from 30,000 accounts per month, 50,000 accounts per month, to we just exceeded 90. Not thousand, million. We exceeded 90 million accounts reached in the month of December.
Wow.
From 800,000 followers, right? I didn't understand what any of that shit meant before I came over and kind of got involved with a team that was much better at social media than I ever would have been or had. But then I see the benefit to not only us, who's trying to be a partner to the workers looking for a new opportunity, want to engage with one another, but a benefit to the companies that is they want to reach that community, right? So they maybe have jobs that they want to offer to those people. Everybody's looking to connect these days. Maybe you have companies out there that want to sell them something. We become that place that they can access a large collection of those people who are actively engaged and want to see their materials. So all of those things, just kind of see numbers go from the thousands to the millions so fast. And it's all done by content creation. And at the end of the day, the best part is just about being real. You're not trying to sell anybody anything that you don't believe in. You're not trying to put on airs of something that does not reflect who you are and your values and principles.
Yeah.
Just be yourself and allow those that want to interact with one another to do so. And hopefully, you're all better for it.
Hell yeah, man. No, I love that, and, like, what I like, I like that you guys share, like, other blue collar people's content on your platform. You're kind of like Troll, right? Like, Troll shares other people's content on their thing, and you guys do it. There's a lot of people that do it. You guys have one of my favorite things is that newsletter. You're like, not only are you sharing people's content, but you're like, hey, let's do a newsletter about, hey, this person here does this, and I can't remember. You guys do it weekly or monthly? I think it's weekly.
It's coming out monthly, and we're actually working through a relaunch of it now, right? So as we've kind of taken our team and kind of, look, I'll just tell you where we are. We focus a lot on the software stuff that we were doing last year and trying to scale things up to have an operation that we could build from. And everything that we've done over the past 3 to 4 months and going into 24 is refocusing back on the community. So things like the newsletter, right? And so it's not enough just to put the newsletter out. It's got to be something of substance. It's got to be something that people care about. Now, they may not care about every single article from top to bottom, but you want there to be something in there that resonates with most people as they see it. Because if you end up just putting out bullshit, people are going to discard you like they do everything else, right? So
people can see through the bullshit with everything, man. Like,
that's right.
Like, there are content creators out there that, like, they think they can fool people. Maybe they can for a little bit, but one person finds out how disingenuous you are or disingenuine you are, you're done, right? And it's crazy, man, how anybody can find anything out they want about you. Someone will dig.
Yep.
Someone has enough time on their hands.
Think about how that is a reflection of the job site.
Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah.
Everybody these days wants to hire based off of a resume, an application, how you do in the interview. There's room for some of that. But at the end of the day, the people that know the real difference are the managers and the guys on the job site. When you show up and you say you can operate that piece of equipment or you can weld something together, you better be able to do it. And until you get your ass in the seat and you show everyone what you can do,
Yep.
well, it's really just kind of talk, right? You might be able to talk a good game. But as soon as the work starts to come out, everybody understands who is who real quick, right? And so
Oh yeah.
the best saying I heard from another partner I've networked with, they do a lot of metal fabrication. He says, real recognizes real. And I think that resonates for so much because from there, not only does that happen at the job site, that happens with, pieces of information you may be reviewing, reading, listening to. So for the beginning, something might pique your interest. But if you start to get a little suspicion that somebody's blowing smoke or they're just taking it, always repackaging everything else, that they don't add anything of their own opinion or their own experience, there's not as much value in that, right? And so you'll just kind of have the casual looker and passer. They're not going to stay engaged with you very long. And so that's the thing that we're trying to get to is we don't have just pride of ownership and things that we create. We are proud of those things, but we want to share the stuff that other people put out too, because there's so many people doing good stuff. And so if we can just be that vehicle to share it with a larger audience and then give them credit for what they've done, man, we'd love to be that megaphone, that place that people can come together to share ideas, have fun at the end of the day, and, hopefully be better off for the information that you get. And then you're able to contribute back to the community too.
Hell yeah, man. How many people work at BoomNation now?
How many do you think?
Oh, geez. See how many people that's a decent sized operation, man. I'm gonna say
12.
12 people.
The entire company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're very, very lean. We're very focused. We're trying to grow. But we have people that are very good at what they do. The founders that started the company all came from industry themselves. They've been guys that have been involved with various parts of construction.
Yeah.
And they just saw it at the beginning stages. What they saw was the lack of something like a LinkedIn for Bluecollar.
Right? Damn. Yep.
And they knew that there's great value in the things like LinkedIn for so much of society. But at the end of the day, that has probably a lot more application in the professional world. So the people that tend to be at a desk doing a lot of email administrative type stuff have resumes to share. So you kind of take that to the professional world wherever you want to go. But man, if you're a welder, a pipe fitter, an equipment operator, what do you need a resume for? Are you going to talk about the last job that you were on? Are you going to talk about the piece of equipment that you ran? What you really need to know is kind of what your work experience would be, your certifications, and will your ass show up to work on time or not?
Yep.
Can you actually do what that says, right? And so they started with the idea of trying to build the LinkedIn for Bluecollar, and that kind of opened us up to being able to do some recruiting. We have application built for doing project communication. So kind of think about when you hire new people onto a job site, how do they know where to go? You work in oil and gas, right? It's been probably the majority of your career, if not everything.
Been there for 12 years.
Different job sites have you been to over 12 years?
I can't count. I can't count how many.
Right? So with that, one of the things that you always have with new hires is telling them where the hell to go to show up for work. If you're going to be going to a site, where's the gate? If you're out in the middle of the oil field, what's the code to the gate to get in? All that type of stuff, right? So took and made software to package all that information together to where you can send it to your team. If you have supervision that changes, you can change the contact information for what goes through. But at the end of the day, you're not making anything new. You're just combining all that data into one spot and allowing people to share it. So it's just been some of the features and tools that came out from people that actually work in the industry and said, you know what, we could probably do this a little bit better if we spent some time planning some things. And that's really the genesis of everything that we have at BoomNation.
Hell yeah, man. And you're in sales there, right?
That's right.
So you got sales, and then who runs the social media? Because that's huge. You guys' social media is huge.
We currently have 2 people in our marketing department, Sabrina and Savannah. Tremendous. I mean, just very good at what they do. They understand content. They understand social media. They work very hard. They engage with other people very well. They're just dedicated to to what they do. From that, we've got the team of a couple of salespeople. When I say a couple, there's only two of us dedicated to just sales. We have someone in partner success. She also helps with sales and manages some accounts. Our co-founder Brett Flavin, and then our product team. Right, and so all those guys are dedicated on certain aspects of trying to improve the product of what we have, trying to make things better. And then at the end of the day, everyone just kind of pitches in on whatever needs to be done. So we have a sales and marketing meeting on a weekly basis. All of those guys are coming in to participate with that because we're all wanting to produce a better experience for our community.
Oh hell yeah!
Whether
This
that's a partner
is
or
their
the
baby, right? This is all your
That's
baby.
right.
There's 12 people there, right? So like it's kind of like tight knit, right? You guys are a family, right? So
Exactly.
if you guys were like 80 people, 100 people, that'd be like it'd still be a family, but it wouldn't be the tight knit like it is with 12. So
Yep.
like it's your baby. It's all of your babies, right? And like this podcast is my baby, right? And hold on a second. My speaking of babies, my daughter had one job over the Christmas holiday, and that was to not get sick. And she got sick while I was home, and now I have a runny nose. It's getting better. It's going away, but one second, right? One
Take your
second.
time,
Talk
man.
about how it's your baby. I just gotta blow my nose, and I don't want to do it here. So
Get it.
yeah. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, it's this podcast has become my baby, right? Like I understand that, like you know, whether I'm in sickness and in health, I'm here. There's a few episodes, like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. Every episode, I was like dying. One of them, I had like a big fever. You could see my face was red, and I'm just like. I was like dying, man. But I chalked it up to I watched. I take it back to when my wife first gave birth to my oldest daughter, right? Whether she was sick, whether she was tired, no matter if it was 2 in the morning or if it was 5 in the evening or noon, if that the baby was hungry, she was there feeding it, right? This is her baby, right? This is my baby, right? I just got off night shift, right? Like I'd probably be passed out by now, but like there's an episode to be done. You guys are available at this time. Man, I'm feeding my baby right now, right? And this is
Oh, yeah.
like it's and I got the sniffles, man, like it's so yeah, so fuck them kids though. Shit. Like I
I've
watched
got
her. Go ahead, you go.
I've got three of my own, so trust me. Whenever somebody gets something, it makes it run through the house pretty quick.
Oh,
So
boys
I
or
feel for you.
girls?
Exactly. We have two boys and one girl.
I got two daughters, man. One is 6 and one is about to be 4 here. And I couldn't figure out, my daughter, she's premature. So the oldest one, so like when she was first born, she was sick a lot, right? And over the last, since she started school anyway, she's just grade 1, since September, there's probably been like 3 weeks or a month where I haven't been sick, right? And it's like, fuck. And I never used to get sick. I can contribute that to one or two other things that's happened in the last couple of years, but we won't go there.
Yeah.
But I watched her when I was at home on days off. She spent 4 hours in urgent care and over the Christmas holiday there, and she's licking the chairs in urgent care. Like, of course you're gonna get sick. She doesn't wash her hands, so every time when I was home, she's in the bathroom, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, "Did you wash your hands? No, get back in there." Right? Licking her hands, licking chairs, licking windows, and just not washing her hands, and hugging everybody and kissing everybody. And it's like, hey, that shit's gotta end because like this, I can't have this anymore. Like
She's just building up her immune system, brother. That's all it is.
yeah, and you know what? That's another thing. She's 4, 5, 6. She's 6. She spent half her life in quarantine, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like so, and then
She's making up for lost time now.
shit, no kidding. And my youngest daughter, man, she was born 2 days before the pandemic started, so she's gonna be 4 here in March, and Yeah, man. Like her whole life has been COVID, right? So
My daughter just turned 4 in November, so she's very close to the age of your daughter. And, you
them
know,
COVID babies are savage, man. Like
oh yeah,
they're heartless. So you said, what did you say you did before? You were in sales before
yeah,
this?
yeah. I was in sales. I worked for a company. You guys know. I mean, I've been to Alberta before with the company I was with at
Oh,
the time. So I came up to
Albert.
Fort Saskatchewan, went out to
Oh,
the
20
Dow
minutes from
Chemical
my
facility
house.
out there.
20
You
minutes
know,
from my house. Nice.
it was cold as balls.
Oh, you came in the
I
winter. Good for
like
you.
February. You
Oh,
know,
man. What year? Do you remember what year
that
it was?
probably would have been around 14.
2014. Okay, those were some cold winters. Where the last couple winters haven't been that bad. This one, it's getting cold now, but up until like a couple days ago, she was fairly warm. Hardly no snow over Christmas. It was which is weird. Fire season. If we don't get cold for longer right now, fire season in the spring is gonna be nasty, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, no good for Dow Chemical. I did some work at Dow Chemical there back in the day. Yeah, screw piling.
Yeah. So I worked for a company at the time, Total Safety, if you know who they are. So do a lot of safety services, so some PPE, rental equipment, and then turnaround services. And so we had acquired a company out of Europe that uh, was doing a more modern and better way of doing confined space attendant work. So
Yeah.
using badge scanners, cameras, gas detection monitors, and things of that sort. And so we were doing some of that work for Dow in the U.S. as we brought that over from Europe. And then we had the opportunity that business team in Fort Saskatchewan had wanted to explore using that for their outages also because they do so much confined space work there, right? So had the opportunity to come up meet with the team and
That's
kind of tell them
badass.
about those services. So yeah,
It's
it was
badass. What was your favorite part about Alberta?
man. You know what it is, and I know other people that have experienced it have seen it firsthand. But if you haven't been there, you don't really know. Alberta is a lot like Texas, just colder.
Yeah, yeah.
The personalities are similar, right? So there's a lot of people that work in the energy sector, various different things, service companies that go to work at those sites, and then everybody else that's worked in the companies that service those guys, right?
Yep.
You have people that are, I think, just true and authentic. They don't have a lot of time for bullshit. So, you don't have a lot of the other beating around the bush type conversations you might have with someone else. And all the way down to, okay, well, the guys in Alberta may play hockey, where the guys in Texas may play football. But guess what? They both have the injuries that they got in sports over time. And they're going to compare stories about that and who could hit harder and, who's tougher and all those things. And, they probably all have a can of Copenhagen in their back pocket. So there's just so much similarity between guys, growing up in just two completely different environments, but have a common theme running through the group between the two.
some lip dinner.
That's it.
Yeah, I've never tried chew before.
Oh man, I
Yeah.
whenever I was in school, going all the way back to high school, I was a kid that grew up in the country. Was part of the program, the ag program. So a lot of vocational education. Everything from livestock, crops, and vocational class. So we had metal shop and things of that sort. Ended up going to school at Sam Houston State in Huntsville, Texas, which is just north of Houston. Was going there in the ag program, and while I was in school, worked for a fence company. So we were out building fence for ranches, for farms, and then we started doing residential fences and things of that sort. So that was my first, real job in a vocational, trade. But we were just, doing some construction and things like that. And man, whenever you work outside like that, there was nothing like, a good bit of nicotine to kind of help keep you going, keep you, preoccupied. And I bet 9 out of 10 guys on the crew, all went through, quite a bit of that stuff every day.
Well, it probably helps, like helps get through some stuff. You know what I mean? Like you're preoccupied and whatnot. Because we talk about it a lot. The podcast is blue collar, but it's also mental health because the two go hand in hand, man. Like
Yep.
you can't have one without the other. And guys in this industry or this blue collar lifestyle, you know, mental health, it's a killer. We're away from home a lot. We're braving the elements. We're sacrificing a lot, for the betterment of those we love. And that could often put what you want and love on the back burner. And I work with a guy, or worked with a guy, I should say, who at 65, he woke up one morning, and this was very recently. He woke up one morning and he's looked at where the last 40 years had gone. And he's like, fuck, it's depressing. Like, where did they
Mm-hmm.
go? And he left. He just made a phone call and he was gone. He's like, I got to change my life, man. And there was a little bit of talk about, other things there. Like, he's like, I don't want to be alive no more. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to do this. And he got on some meds and stuff like that. And then he dipped. Right. And it was like, I know where he's at now, and I'm glad he's doing better. So shout out to him. But it takes a lot to realize that, especially his age, that age group there. They couldn't talk about that before, right?
Yeah.
That was a no go zone, right? So I'm glad, like he was able to step up to the plate and realize that there was an issue going on.
It's never too late. That's what
Never.
everybody needs to remember. And so, look, man, look, it's just a good opportunity for me to bring this up. I've heard other people talk about it so many times. It's part of a regular conversation with, uh, no matter what business you're in, someone's going to bring it up sooner or later. Everybody thinks, what's wrong with these kids today? What's wrong with the next generation? They're not the same. They're not. Well, guess what? There's some good things that are not the same too, right?
Yep.
It's not all bad. They are different. Every generation is different. My dad's generation probably thinks that my generation is the laziest, workers to come along, than anyone before them. And I think that's just one of the natural things that you'll kind of always look at the generations to come behind you, and you have a tendency to focus on the negative without seeing the positive.
Yep.
I see this all the time now whenever we're trying to help companies connect with workers that are looking for opportunity. And at the end of the day, do you know what the biggest problem that most people have whenever they're trying to recruit people and they're just not hitting those targets, finding the people they want? They're not connecting with people. And so they don't understand how to package the value of what they have to offer, the great opportunity for working at their company, the difference that that type of career can make to the individual and the individual's family, and for the individual to be able to see that and kind of package it to something that they can see the path that they need to follow. There's just a language barrier. There's values and principles that may be common, but they could be slightly off and need to be adjusted. And it could be perfectly fine for everyone to work together. Or there could be things that just need to change. Either way, but either the company's going to have to change or the people are going to have to change. One of the two, but you just kind of find, what your group is.
Yep.
The one thing that I will say that's a big difference for the generation that's, let's say, the people that are out now that are in their early to mid 20s, the number one thing that they're looking for that I hear that is different is they're looking for the experience, and not just the experience on the job, but the experience in life. And so if you went back to my dad's generation, there was two things that they wanted a lot. One, they wanted, I would just kind of put stability and tenure kind of together. They wanted to know that they could go to an employer and stay there for a long time.
Yep.
And they wanted a very good pay rate to do it, right? And so they were really kind of that first generation to kind of really drive being willing to change from company to company to get the pay rate that they felt they deserved. Kudos to them for that. That's great, and it fit, well for their time. But your friend that's 65, he's from that generation, and that's probably very similar to the career path and the experience that he had.
Yep.
But he looked back and he saw some of the things that he's missed. He goes, where has my life gone? Well, you look at that guy that's 25 now, and he's so concerned about experience. Maybe he has a little too much value placed on that, but maybe he's onto something that he sees that his father or his grandfather didn't quite get, and he wanted to do different. So those younger workers these days are willing to take a bit of a cut in pay are willing to not work for a period of time or whatever it is to fund and have those experiences that they want to have along the way. So they want to earn enough to have a good living. They want to earn enough to buy the toys that everyone wants and the standard of living that you're looking for. But that standard of living is much more focused around the experience over their career and their lifespan than I think what my dad's generation appreciated. Right. And
Hell yeah.
so many times those guys in my dad's generation were looking at what you did after retirement, always thinking that you had longer to get there. And you build up this nest egg, do all of this work, have everything saved up. And then by the time you become a grandpa, enjoy all the good time with your grandkids. I think this younger generation is looking about, okay, I want to have as much of those good experiences as I can when I'm in my 20s,
Yep.
when I have kids at home, and then kind of build into a career that I can be proud of at the end of the day. At the end of the day, there's probably not one right or wrong answer.
Yep.
But you need to understand who you are, the type of company that you want to work with, and the company understand the type of people that they need to keep their business running.
Yep. How old are you?
I'm 44.
44. So you'd be, but Gen X?
Yeah, I'm right at the end of Gen X.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I'm an elder millennial, so I'm right at the beginning of millennials, and I think the younger generation has watched millennials and figured millennials we tried to do everything right. We're still in that mindset too. We're trying to do it all right. Where we show up, we give all we have to the company, we stay late, we clock in early, we do it all right. We try to as we were raised by our parents, you do what you have to do for the company and the company's going to take care of you, right? Well, I think Gen X, Gen Z, I think Gen Z is looking at that as well. Where the hell did that get you guys, right? Look at you guys out there right now. You clocked in early, you clocked out late, you worked all the overtime they could offer you. You were a yes man. You showed up and you did your thing, and it got you nowhere, right? Like there's no loyalty with companies to their employees anymore, right? Like they don't give a shit. We're just a number, right? So the Gen X or Gen Z has seen that, and they're like, why am I going to dump all my effort, my time, and my energy into being that guy when it's gotten them nowhere? You know what I mean? And that's been a big thing for me. I've been here for five and a bit years, over 5 years at this company. That's a long time now for someone to be in one place, right? Like I've seen the amount of turnover that's come through here, and it's like, damn, dude, like 5 years isn't a long time, but it is a lifetime in today's standards for an employee.
Yep. Well, man, look, I think that there's a really big correlation between a work career relationship between the employer and employee.
Yep.
And a romantic relationship or dating.
Oh, okay. Shit.
You have to go in with eyes wide open. And
Yep.
you have to know what your motivation is to be there for both parties. As long as that is mutually beneficial to both parties, it's going to be a good relationship.
Yep.
And at the time that one starts to underappreciate the other party, whenever one starts to take advantage, or whenever the goals no longer align, that relationship is not going to last forever. Not without some type of intervention, changing. Maybe you come together and you reset new goals together. But look, we both know we've got friends that have probably been single, lived the bachelor lifestyle, ended up meeting somebody that convinced them to change their ways, and then they ended up making a shift and decided to build a life together. And either they're still together because they're still perfectly aligned, or, man, as soon as the honeymoon period was over, life became hell and they were looking for the next place to go.
Yep.
How similar is that to work? Think about you go through an interview, right? And the company's going to tell you the things that are good about working there. You're going to know about this new opportunity, new group of guys to get to know.
Yeah. They're honey dicking you, and you're honey dicking them.
That's right. Everything's good in the beginning.
Yep.
But once you're there for a little bit, you have that the newness wears off, and the reality of life starts to set in.
Yep.
And guess what? Some companies, their motivation is to keep you around and keep you happy, and they're going to do a very good job of that. And that's the type of place that you need to be. And that's a match made in heaven. Continue on. Glad for you both. Some companies, there may not be that value to them. Maybe it's the ownership structure. Yeah, maybe it's private equity that's involved and they have different motivation to sell the company. Maybe it's a privately owned company that was started by an entrepreneur that wanted to build a brand around the work that he knew how to do. Whatever that's going to be a very different experience where you go. So don't go to one company as an employee and think that you're going to be working for an individual when you're working for a group of investors, and then don't vice versa go the other way and think that, okay, I'm going to climb this big ladder and there's all these different positions that hold along the way, and the sky's the limit, we're going to go here and do all these things, when in reality with that company you may have the chance to move up 2 or 3 positions over 20 to 30 years.
Yep.
But it's just not structured the same. So if you go to the bar looking for a wife, just know who you're bringing home, right? If
Yep.
you're looking for someone that has a different set of motivations and a different set of principles, you need to go where those people are. And I think if everyone just be real with themselves and kind of identify that you get what you're asking for a lot of times, don't be unhappy with when you end up with what you've got.
Yep. And what you were saying there about how the stars got to align or your goals got to align. I've been with my wife for 20 years, right? And I'm not even 40 yet. She's not even 40 yet. And we've been together since high school, and we've been married for 11 years. And, over the course of that 20 years, our goals have come out of alignment a few times, but like, you got to recognize when it's like, hey, you know what? We need to have a meeting. We're going to fight about it a little bit, but we got to have a meeting and we got to get back on the same path, or we got to figure something else out. Right. And, we've, our relationship works so good, and we talk about this all the time. Our communication's amazing. Right. And how I got so lucky, or how she got, I should say how she got so lucky, how did she pull me, you know what I mean? No, I'm joking. I punched him way up. My dad's a piece of shit, and I grew up watching how he treated women, right? And my wife had to mold me. She saw what she saw potential, she saw what I could be, but she saw the task at hand and she should have walked. But like she had to mold me into her idea of what I should be, and I had to get on board with that idea, and right. So, you know, try taking a 17-year-old kid and being like, hey, buddy, you know, I'm putting a leash on you. This is what's gonna happen, right? Like, like good for her. Good for her. I don't think I could have done it, but she said something to me, and I met my grandma for the first time 10 years ago. My dad was adopted when he was newborn, and they found each other after 50 years. And I met my grandma for the first time 10 years ago, and she said something to me that was mind-boggling, and it was something very similar to what my wife said. My nana said, um, "There's something in you. I see something in you, and I think one day you're gonna see it too. And I can't wait to be there for when it shines through." And I'm like, "Dad, what the fuck do you know? You're like 80 years old. I don't fucking care what you have to say, right?" And my wife said, shortly after that, we're talking. I'm like, man, why the fuck would you stick around through all that bullshit? She's like, there was something there that I thought was worth fighting for, that I thought was worth waiting for. You know what I mean? She's like, I didn't know how long I was gonna have to wait, but like I knew if I waited and was patient, it was there. And that made me tear up a little bit. And all those years later, like 10-ish years later, man, like one day you're gonna see it in yourself. And like I started taking a step back and looking and be like, damn, I'm proud of who I'm becoming, no thanks to my dad, my wife. My wife was part of that. And that's huge, right? And it all comes back down to getting on that same thing. Same with my boss. I had a boss, promise you this story's gonna wrap up. I had a boss who called me into his office when I was 20 years old, and he's like, hey man, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I'm like, I don't know, man, but I hope there's a lot more money there, right? And I've told this story in the podcast before. He's like, I see it in you. I know you want to work. You're not afraid to get dirty. You want to get you want to get in there. He's like, I can't pay you, and I'll never be able to pay you what you're worth. He's like, but I can help you get to there, right? And he's like, the best piece of advice I ever was given was this from this guy. He said, patience. The money will come. You just put the time in, and it will come, right?
Yep.
And man, the dude was so right. Like, I use that job as a stepping stone to the next job, and that job as a stepping stone to the next job, and so on and so forth until I got to where, I am now, right? And I was looking for a job when I found this one. So, I'm still looking. I'm always looking. And so, it all comes down to I'm happy where I'm at. I'm content, but like maybe that's become a problem too. So I'm definitely looking. I'm definitely looking to move up. So I'm better off than I was like 10 years ago, but like I still feel like there's more of a ladder to climb. So
The one thing that I think so many people just kind of get wrong, and they're naturally going to get it wrong because there's no roadmap to show you how to do it perfectly. You kind of have to fill it out as you go.
gonna hit the bumps.
That's right. And that's the only way to really learn. You might learn some other things along the way, but you're going to have so much more that comes from the experiences than anything else. For that younger generation that we're talking about, and they ask, well, where did that get you? How did that work out for you? Well, guess what? Whenever you're starting out, you need to have some skills to be able to build from. So that's why you go to training. That's why you sign up as an apprentice. That's why you try to learn from those that are a little bit older older than you.
Yep.
That's what it takes to go to work, to have the opportunity to learn the next things, because we all want to have those people that have ambition, that want to do more. They want to build a good life. They want a nice standard of living. They want to be proud of their career and all of those things. Now, ambition for some may be they want to reach the top levels of the organization and either own their own company or be CEO one day. That's perfectly fine. You kind of set your goals where you need to and you build there. And you want to be able to demonstrate your ambition whenever you get involved on the job, because you want other people to know and recognize that you want more than just what you have today. And ultimately, you want the money and the responsibility, that comes with that move upward. But also you want that sense of accomplishment to be able to look back on that career and say, I started here and I built to there. But the problem that we end up with so often, and I think this is probably more so for men than it is for women, is ego comes in. And whenever ego comes in, you may have the desire to want to do something, but you do it from a position of pride. And whenever you have too much pride, that comes across more strongly than confidence, you end up having this problem where ego outstretches ambition, and it can be interpreted by the other people in the organization in the wrong way. So it would be nothing wrong with people saying, what, that guy, he's really ambitious. He's going places. Just like, your grandmother probably shared with you about, I see something in you. You want something more. But when have you ever heard it in a good tone when somebody says, what, that guy's got a big ego?
I've never heard it in a good tone, but there is there's nothing wrong with having an ego either, right? Like I've come to realize this, on social media, especially, you get guys, just normal guys like you and me, right? And then we start getting a following and the views come and the likes, and people are like, they recognize you out in public and like, oh, you're famous, right? You got to keep that ego in check. But like, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of an ego. You're always going to have a little bit of an ego. It's impossible not to, right? And I denied it for a little while. Someone's like, man, you got a bit of an ego. And it's like, no, I don't. What the hell are you talking about? They're like, hey, whoa, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right? There's going to be egos once you start, climbing up there, no matter if it's at work, if it's on social media, right? You get good at what you do, it's going to come with an ego, right? But are you willing to tame that monster and use that ego for good, right? You know what I mean? Like, is your ego going to be a cocky motherfucker, or is your ego going to be like, hey man, I have the skills to help you get better too, right? And like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, but I'm also humble about it, right? And
Yep.
yeah, so I'm cocky enough to know that I made this video last year. I'm cocky enough to know that it'll take 3 people to replace me at work, but humble enough to know how'd that go? I'm humble enough to know that I'm humble enough to know that I'm replaceable. Cocky enough to know that it'll take 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what
That's a
it
good way to
was.
think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I think there's nothing wrong at all with being proud of a job well done or accomplishments that you've had.
Yeah.
You just got to be willing and able to back it up. Right. And then at the end of the day, we all rely on someone else to help us with various things that we have to do, throughout life. For
Amen.
someone that's always seeking the attention and the affirmation for everything that you do, you don't give the space for anyone else to shine. And so, if you can find those that have great capacity and capabilities also to work alongside and you support
Yeah.
one another, you both go further with it.
That's what the podcast has been all about. Collaboration with other people. Who said this to me? I think it was on the Bluecollar Angst podcast. Those at the top are collaborating, while those at the bottom are competing. Right? They're gatekeeping in a way, right? And that's
Too protective and closed off from everyone else.
yeah, man, that's insane. Hey, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what viscosity is?
I understand, the thickness of the liquid and how fast it can move.
The thickness of the liquid,
Yeah.
the thickness of the load, right? How
Yep.
thick is your load, right?
Yep.
And where I'm going with it is the podcast is sponsored by Mudman. The Mudman deals in viscosity on the drilling rigs, right? So like
Yeah.
how thick do you need that mud down hole, right? So for all your drilling fluid and laboratory testing equipment needs, the Mudman's got your back. www.themudmanmarket.com. He changed his website name there not long ago. So mudmarket.com, I think it is now. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah, man. So where does I don't know if you know, but like where does Boom and the Trench, where do they see themselves going from where they're at right now? What are in the future plans?
Yeah. So we have big aspirations for all of this year. And what that looks like is we want to improve the in-app experience so that we have a better reason for people to come to that app that we're building for the community and for the partners. We'd love to see the number of downloads for that grow. But we don't only want the number of users to grow, we want to see the regular interaction and engagement improve. And for that,
From the people
we're
that are already
investing in the
there.
platform. That's right.
Yeah.
And it's not just we don't want to just play a numbers game where we're just trying to run up some metrics so we can say, hey, everyone, look at the number of followers or participants that we have. We want to have something of substance to where we become in one aspect the source of truth, so you kind of really know what's going on, you really know where opportunities lie, you really know what people are talking about. So that's why you have things from the news feed and the app, the Trench newsletter, all of those other things, the posts that we put out on LinkedIn, which tend to be a bit more on the professional side of communication with partners and clients and things of that sort. But we always want to stay focused on delivering for things looking through the lens of the worker. So often as companies begin to focus on the growth and wanting to make their company more successful, look,
Which is
we
fine.
do not hide from it one bit. We want to be profitable. We want to make revenue. We want to grow our company. But we want to do that by being service to the community, not using the community just to achieve that goal. Right? We see the opportunity for us to grow as an opportunity to grow the community and give them a better quality product than what they've had before. And it just takes money to do those things, So, with that, we've taken an approach, especially at the end of this last year, into changing the way that we looked at recruiting. In the beginning, we had a job board. We still have it there. People can post jobs. People can come on and apply and do things like that. But we do a lot of social recruiting. And because of the material that we put out on all of those other platforms, the podcasts and everything else, We become part of that daily interaction that people have with their mobile devices and their social platforms that they go through. And so we want to present opportunities to those people who may be looking for their next job, their next opportunity. But we also want to be able to reach those people that they may not be looking today, but if the right opportunity came along, it might be a good fit for them, right? And so they may take a few minutes to apply for a position when they did not even think about doing it that day. And not because we're trying to hard sell them for a job, but it just might be something that ends up being a match made in heaven that they didn't even know that company existed or it was available in that market, or they could get that pay rate to do that particular job, whatever the case is. And so we're trying to build all those experiences to make them better, not only for the worker, but for the partners also. The problem that we see with so many people in recruiting, we kind of talk about having a different message, between company and the applicant and the way things go. Um, every company out there has a tendency to do these things. They think about things in the language of their company, in the way they think through their processes. So if they think about a position, they're probably thinking of the title of that position in their HR system, what the typical job description looks like, all the way down through to if you get hired into the company and you came in at this level, you probably went to this position next, and whatever that progression plan looks like. Well, if you don't work for that company, you don't fit that model exactly. And that doesn't mean that you couldn't be of value to that company or that the company may not need you. But what you really need is you need to be able to attract people that could be interested in a quick manner if they decide to take action to get just enough information that it takes to go through the steps of qualification to find out if you're even interested in one another or not, and then move on to the next steps of hopefully getting a job and joining a team and building a great career. Um, too many times, everyone wants to jump those steps. They want to go all the way through who's interested, who's on board in one fell swoop. You don't go from a blind date to a wedding.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there was that one time on that show during the pandemic.
There's always Vegas. But, how often does that end up being a good experience for everyone? It usually ends up in disaster more than anything. Yeah. So if you look at the way job boards have been done, they're typically a pretty bad experience for recruiters, right?
Yeah.
Why do recruiters hate job boards? They hate them because of the results they get from them. They get so many applicants and very few qualified people. And then if you look at workers, guess what? They hate job boards too. You know why? Because the experience. How many times do you know those people that need a job today? They go through and they apply to 50 jobs and they don't get a call back from anyone.
It's happened to me
all the time.
Right.
It's so frustrating. So if you have both people that have a bad experience with job boards, why do they even exist? Well, part of the reason is there's still a need to communicate some of that information. There's still going to be people that come through that way. That's fine. Use it how you need to. But look for ways to do things differently. And so that's how we got into the social recruiting to where we still have our job boards. We still participate with that. We have some ties to ZipRecruiter and places like that where we can help pull in jobs for applicants. We can also post things on ZipRecruiter if need be. And depending on the positions, it's going to be different results that you get with all the different variables that you can play in. At the end of the day, if you have an audience that's made up of people from that community of workers that have the skills and the qualifications that you're looking for, you can probably get through with about 5 or 6 questions, what you need to know to then have a conversation about, are you a fit here or not? And then we can go through the additional steps of onboarding and hopefully adding you to the team. You don't have to go from step 1 to 10 immediately. Take a couple steps along the way, and the experience is probably better for both parties.
Yep. And, it's happened a couple times that I've heard of, and I've done it a couple times where, people are using social media too, right? Like what you guys are trying to do, but like TikTok and Instagram, right? Where like people have reached out to me, like, hey, you looking for a job, right? Because they know that I already work in the oil field. I got experience. I show it in my videos, right?
Yep.
And right, so they're like, "Hey, you looking for a job? We're hiring, right?" And or I've recently applied for let's talk about a crane operator apprenticeship, right? That's going to be a decent little road, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's. I think she said she's going to call me back in like the new year sometime, so that could be anywhere between January and December. So I don't know. The new year is a very vague statement. So like, whatever. I'll stay here till they get the call, but sorry. So I applied for another one, but I also met that guy through here. And then, I've seen him on site a few times, and I'm like, and I've built a relationship with him in person as well. He's seen me work in person as well as my videos and stuff like that. So that's another position I'm kind of looking at, whatever one sort of calls first, and whatever one best suits my family and I, right? So the internet's been a wild ride, man, like for everyone.
It is. And we hear the numbers of people kind of going into the trades and leaving the trades, and everyone talks about the shortage of people coming out and all.
Oh yeah.
I think there's some truth to, well, I think there's enormous truth to the fact that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in the trades. I think there's some truth to we may have more jobs than what we have workers in some trades. But I don't think that the problem is necessarily as bad and dire as advertised. I think people take bits and pieces of information and they make these extravagant stories over them. At the end of the day, we still know people that are going to vocational school, getting certifications, wanting to come out and begin a career. We know people that are going in, joining unions, going through their apprentice programs, coming out to be journeymen and take that whole path that goes along that way of learning and career development. And then you have those people that were maybe they started in college and they either achieved a degree or they got through a few years and stopped just short, and they start to ask themselves, is this the way that I want to continue the path, or maybe I just want to go to work and do something else? All of those things, people are constantly moving in and out. And at the end of the day, I'm pretty confident in one thing. I'm confident that the market will settle itself, right? And
Just like that reminds me of when Justin Trudeau said the balance will budget itself in Canada. Like, hey, maybe I hope that the balance, yeah, the market will settle itself is a lot more true than what the debt's fucking paying itself down here.
well, man, think about this. So you guys have all type of natural disasters that come up. You talk about fire season could be really bad. And I know
Oh
you
yeah,
guys had tremendous fires this past year.
yeah. I got
Um,
evacuated twice. Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah,
California has their wildfires that go over that way. Where I'm at on the Gulf Coast, we have hurricanes that come through, and now just last night there were tornadoes not too far from us, and it's just all these things that come up, right?
yeah.
So uh, every time that happens, a basic thing to look at is what happens with the power and utilities, right? I know from hurricane experience in the past that we've had time periods where power was out for 3+ weeks.
That's insane.
Yeah, especially in August and September in Texas, where it is blistering hot, extremely humid, all these other things that go along with it. And then trees are down everywhere. You need to do the cleanup, but those trees being down is the same thing that took down the power and utilities. So at that time, what is the most important thing to everyone? One, I need running water, for my house, and that's usually
AC.
running as long as you can be inside, and then AC. In order to have AC, you got to have the power up and running, and people would pay whatever it took to have that restored to their house. And so you have linemen from around the country show up, and they come in and they get paid tremendously, all the emergency response pay that those guys can justify. And why do they get paid that? Because people are willing to pay whatever it takes to have the system back up and running. So if
Yep.
you just kind of take that as an example to what's going to happen whenever there ends up being a shortage of plumbers. We have problems, recruiting plumbers in certain markets. Whenever you kind of look around, whatever the certifications go. If geographies have trouble getting too many plumbers that meet a certification requirement, they're either going to produce some type of training program to bring people in. They're going to open up reciprocity to other states to allow craft people to come across and begin working in their market,
Yep.
or the rate is going to go up. The day that the rate goes up to where you make more money working on a sewer drain line than what you do in a professional desk position, guess where most of those people are going to go that have these expectations of a standard of living?
They're
You
going to
may
go
end
to
up
the
just
trade.
exactly right. And
They're going to end
so
up in the
I think
sewers. Yeah.
that's right. And so everyone, I believe, has faced similar exposure over the past several years. Let's say the past 20 years. They wanted this career path to be you finished school, you went to university, you got a degree, and you didn't have to work these blue collar jobs. Well, guess what? That's not for everyone. That's for a
No.
lot of people, and it's great for the ones that it fits. But anytime that you end up with too much supply of people with that set of skills and not enough people with vocational skills, you're going to diminish the value of all of those people with degrees that can do those similar type of jobs. And you're going to increase the value of people that actually have the vocational skills to work on your air conditioning, to get the power back up and running, to make your plumbing run, water in, sewage out, all those important things. And so, how often do you go to a restaurant and you end up having a conversation with a server and come to find out they spent some time at university? They may or may not have a degree. They came out of school and they just didn't have the opportunities presented to them that they thought they were going to have.
Yep.
Almost all the time, that's people coming from university experiences, right? And it could be junior college all the way to, major, 4-year program. How often do you hear about somebody coming from the trades waiting tables?
Not a lot.
Why is that?
Because they made enough money, they got a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of growth, right? Why would you leave somewhere where you can grow a lot, right? You hear a little bit about like you see someone older doing it. You're like, yeah, man, my body gave out. I couldn't do it no more. I didn't take care of myself. Yada yada yada, and or it was time for a change. Yeah, you hear a little bit of that, but never from a younger person that being like, yeah, man, I quit my job as a journeyman welder to work at this restaurant bussing tables.
Yep.
Never.
And look, I think part of that is those trade people, they're not saddled with a debt either. They didn't spend 4 or 5 years going into debt, working less hours,
Yep.
coming out with a degree, and then having limited earning potential in the beginning. Careers, obviously, the upside could be more, but they just didn't achieve that level. If they did, that's not where they would have ended up at this point. So many times, those people that could be in their early stages of their career come out, go into the trades, they're earning money from day one.
Yep.
Now, it might be in a lower range of the, let's say 20 something dollars per hour. But by the time they have 5 years in, that $20 per hour is probably come somewhere near the neighborhood of $30 per hour. They've probably been working a ton of hours over that time, and they don't have all the debt to go along with it. So
Yep.
they're set up very well. They can now start their own business if they want to take that route. They can become a senior craft person in a company. They may just be a supervisor that's overseeing guys of what they were doing 10 and 15 years ago.
Yep.
And so you kind of look at those things, and I think that there's a likelihood that those guys have more job satisfaction maybe than some people that took a different path.
Hell yeah, I get to see nature like every day, man. Like some of my office view changes all the time. I can't count the amount of times this winter alone that I've watched the aurora borealis dance in the sky above me while I'm working. Right, like damn, man, that's beautiful. I've gotten
That's
pictures
awesome.
of it, and it's wild, man. It's wild. Like you can't get those kind of views in a cubicle.
No. Well, man, I tell you something, and this is going to age me a little bit, but just some of the things that I went through. So, my degree in school was for agribusiness, and I've ended up doing very little with agriculture after graduation. But I kind of went in environmental because of a career or a job I had in my final year of college, and then worked from the environmental over to oil and gas. Is just the area that I live in where the opportunities existed. But I remember those first 5 or 6 years of my career. Reality TV was just becoming kind of serious,
The
and there was
real
this
life.
show called Orange County Chopper. You remember
Oh
the
yeah.
father and
Yep.
son building
Yep.
the really cool bikes and everything?
Oh yeah.
Well, I remember sitting there late at night whenever I'm trying to do this turn as a young salesperson, trying to grow clients, trying to establish myself, and I get to see these guys go into a project to build something that they really care about, deliver it to the customer at the end of the day, and be able to say, "Here's your bike that you asked for. I hope you enjoy it. I'm moving on to the next one." And it had such, in my mind, a sense of accomplishment to take a project from inception to development, completion, and delivery, that they were able to kind of turn through the different steps and be able to move on to the next thing and take lessons learned. And then I
Pride.
kind of look what I was doing the environmental work at the time, and I was like, man, there's no end to this. It's like, okay, we're going to do this for compliance today. We're going to do that for compliance. There might be an emergency job that pops up, but what are we doing? We're testing some more soil or water, or whatever comes through, and all those things need to be done. But I found myself wanting to have that sense of accomplishment of a project to look at from the stages of completion. And then you kind of think about, fast forward to where I'm at in life these days, kids of my own, and kind of enjoying a lot of the humor that goes along with dad jokes and things like that. And you think about dads in construction. What's the one thing that they all do if they're driving through town? They point out to the kids, "I built that. I built
Yep.
that. I built that." You don't get to do that when you're in a sales position. What are you going to say? Well, I sold them their testing supplies. I sold them their PPE, and those things. And yeah, some pride being involved with those things, but on the grand scale of things, I kind of think that the guys in the trades have a better sense of accomplishment for that,
Yep.
and something to be proud of.
Yep. And if you take care of yourself, your body's not going to blow out, right? You hit the gym. You don't, maybe you try sobriety, eat, don't stop at the gas station and get like, yeah, that's a hard one, like I don't do that, but like, I don't like spending money. So I
Well, let
don't,
me ask you something for that. All right. So this is something I ask guests all the time whenever I get to have a conversation. I'm just curious. I'm the guy that I live with. If I'm on the road, I have food with me all the time. I'm still eating my 5 or 6 meals a day every
yep.
day, and you know, uh, using every gas station microwave I can find along the way. If it's time to eat, it's time to eat. For you, what's in your lunchbox on a daily basis? What's your go-to?
So for me, I'm in camp, right? So camp supplies me with all my food, right? Like and a place to sleep here behind me. On night shift, I don't really eat that much, right? I'll take an apple, I'll take a sandwich, grapes if I can, a snack, sometimes a camp cookie or yeah, whatchamacallit. My wife actually made me cookies before I came back, so I have those. I'm kind of getting through. Um, so I'll throw a sandwich in there, and if I kind of have a feeling if it's going to be a late one because I work on a back truck, so like there's sometimes where we're 40 hours into it, 40 hours straight, 30 hours straight. I did 18 last week, so but right now we're on a project that's 12, so I know okay my shift's over at this time. And so yeah, I'll take a sandwich, I'll take a snack, I'll take apples, whatever, yada yada yada, and a bunch of water. Um, but yeah, on nights I can't eat. Right? It's like I my body's just yeah I'm conserving that energy. I work a little slower. I still get it done, but like I don't need that much food on days. Yeah, sometimes I'll pack an extra sandwich. I'll be like, hey, you know what? Like, if I get through this, I get through this. If I don't, I don't. It's no big deal, right? So yeah, I try to do that, and I have another job that I work at in the summertime. I work road construction in the summer. I come back here in the winter. Been there for 8 years. See, like that's rare, right?
Yep.
And there I got to make my own food, right? So if depends if my wife's with me or not. But my wife will follow me around on the road sometimes because she can stay the week in a hotel with me or whatever, and my kids will come. She'll make my food. Then I'm living good, right? Like there's like a nice sandwich, like fat sandwich with all the homemade ingredients on it, and Like she'll bring cookies, she'll bring apples, bananas, oranges, grapes. I have a big lunch, and I can't even get through it all. Right? Like sometimes I save half that lunch when she's with me. Sometimes I have to save half the lunch for the next day. Right? And but when I'm by myself, it's like, you know what? Sometimes I go for sustenance over quality. There's like, you know what? I didn't get time to make my lunch today. Fuck it. Two pieces of bread, piece of bologna on it, maybe a squirt of mustard. Put it in a bag and let's go. You know, like,
Yep.
you know, it's like she keeps when she's there. She keeps me honest. So she's like, maybe you should make your lunch the night before. And I'm like, nah, I just worked 14 hours, 15 hours. I don't want to make my lunch. I got other shit to do tonight, right? I'll rush at it in the morning, you know? Yeah. So
Yep.
same with having a shower. You know, like I'll have one at night most. If I'm really dirty, I'll have one at night. But you know, if I didn't get all that dirty, I'm gonna save that shower for the morning, right? And a lot of people think that's gross too, right? Like, you know, I just sweat all day. I'm jumping in my. They change my sheets every other day in camp, so like, you know, it's whatever. I don't do that
Yep.
when I'm at home. My wife makes me shower, but like, you know,
She would put up with that shit.
no, not at all. My daughter even calls me out. You smell bad. Like, thanks, kid. Appreciate that. Go lick another window.
Yeah,
Jesus.
that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, I love that. So, like, do you know? I don't think we talked about it, but do you know like the humble beginnings of Boom and well, the Trench, right? Like two dudes or one dude in like a garage or a basement, just sitting on the couch. You know, I'm gonna put this thing together on my phone. You know, sort of
Yeah.
like sort of like how I assume Troll would have started, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I'd say so. Really, what it was is there's three guys that were friends at college. They were all going to LSU. I know a couple of them were from the Lake Charles market.
Hold on,
Maybe
can
all
you
three of
say
them.
Louisiana for me?
Oh yeah, Louisiana. Or is it?
Louisiana. I love when
Yeah.
Americans to say when people that are down south say Louisiana.
If you talk to people from the other side of the border, they may say Louisiana. You
Louisiana.
know,
Louisiana.
uh, it's all different types, and then it's always interesting whenever you go through Louisiana. So there's three different uh, groups of speech as you go through. You have the western part of the state, which they tend to be a little bit more country, kind of the cowboys and everything through there. You'll have the Acadiana, which is like say
French. Yeah.
Lafayette through the middle. So a lot of French, and then you get over to New Orleans and it's a bit more Creole. And then most people from around New Orleans kind of have a Bronx sounding accent. And there's a lot of similarity there. People may call New Orleans, the Bronx of the South, but they end up dropping the last letter off, many terms. So it's just kind of funny, kind of where you're at in the state, how the accents can change. But yeah, they were all students at LSU. They had worked for companies that were involved in the energy sector as they were going through school, and they're all just a few years younger than I am, so they were more involved with digital media and creation and things of that sort. And they started looking at what was missing. What was different from the experience they were having coming out of university, going into their first career positions with companies that were involved with the industry, coming in with a degree versus what they had whenever they were the guys on their tools and working in different positions. And was there an opportunity to improve what was available to workers? And
There it is again. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that just kind of came back to they were doing it from their experience. And that's what led to us doing things through the lens of the worker, is trying to constantly refocus back to what makes a difference for the community, not just for the company itself. And then,
Yep.
being dedicated to the focus, that's what's good for the community will be good for the company as well.
That is fucking so true, man. Like, like if it's kind of like, I don't want to take it to politics, man, but it's kind of like what's good for the people. If the people are happy, generally it's easy to govern, right? You got no restlessness, you got no uprisings, right? If the people in the community are satisfied and can find what they're looking for, the community itself, happy worker is a productive worker, right?
That's right.
Boom.
Yeah, and then so many times, really cool things, really innovative things have come from an extreme need, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so whether it was an overreaching government that made things too hard on workers or companies, or maybe it was a trying time. I mean, look at just of all the things that we can say that were negative around the shutdowns and slowdowns of 2020 and the months to follow. Imagine if that would have occurred in 2010. Man, we would have been shit out of luck trying to work from home,
Oh
trying to be
fuck.
able to have virtual meetings,
Yep.
podcasts, all those things. We would have gone
Yep.
crazy probably.
Yep.
But you
Oh yeah.
fast forward to what was available in the market, and then the innovations. Everybody kind of refers to Zoom, as kind of the standard bearer for virtual meetings and things of that sort. But the workplace changed. Products were developed. Companies were structured different, and things just kind of rebalanced. And guess what? We're still getting through it. Supply chain ended up being an issue for a while. They seem to have got a lot of that figured out by now. Prices have gone up. There's all these other things that are side uh, effects of things that happen and changes that occur. There's been a lot of innovation that's come along to make things better too.
Yo, definitely, man. Like, oh, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like, um, you just know that they're there, right? And um, fucking yeah, just I it takes me back to what I was talking to a buddy about the pandemic. What else it was good for with the worker, right? And I had a buddy who told me, he got out of high school, he got his girlfriend pregnant, and he needed to join a trade to get good money, right? Because he had a kid and he was young and he needed to pay for that life. Well, fast forward like almost 20 years, right? Pandemic hits, right? And what did the pandemic show him? Well, he got laid off. Oh shit, you know what? I don't need to make that kind of money anymore to live my life, to get ahead, to be able to afford to live. He's like, I always had a passion for something else, photography, right? So he jumps into photography. His kid's a little older now, and he doesn't have to dole out all this money all the time. And boom, he's happy. He's doing photography. He left the trades. He doesn't need to be there, right? He doesn't need to be living lavish and be out on the road all the time, away from home, sacrificing. He could be right where he wants to be when he wants to be there.
That's
Pandemic helped him
awesome.
see that. That's insane, right? Like, and
Yep.
it showed. We also talk. I don't know if you've seen the guy on TikTok, the night shift champion of the world, Grayson Magaha, and he was on night shift for almost 20 years straight. And God bless his soul. He's been on my podcast, turned into a really good friend of mine. Lives in North Dakota. No, North Carolina. Not North. It was one of the Norths.
The other
So
end of the country.
yeah, the other end. So he was saying, a lot of people went from what was that? The wording. How was that worded? A lot of people went from essential to expendable overnight with the pandemic, right?
Yep.
And yeah, that really hit too, right? Because you've seen it, everyone just like, oh shit, you're we need you, you're essential, you're the best, we love you, right? To whoa, our profit just took a hit, like you're expendable, and then they turn like record profits, right? It
That's
was an
right.
insane time. It was just an insane time for everyone. And I think the workforce woke up to that too, right? It showed the workforce really learned its value and what it should be looking for, right? And as well. Like, how do you value yourself versus how does the company value you? I can tell you it's very different.
Well, and I hope that some people would have had a good experience with that too, right? And they can look back and they know if their company kept them on board, on staff, paid them, did what they could, and didn't try to take advantage of the worker, but try to. Man, I've got to tell you, I've had good experiences and bad experiences
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
In those trying times, I've really had the opportunity to learn more about what good looked like. So, for example, I talked about hurricanes earlier. Where I live back in 2017, Hurricane Harvey hit and flooded my entire neighborhood. When I say my neighborhood, like over 500 homes all had water in them. I had 5 foot of water in my house. Right?
Shit.
I was working for that Softcraft company at the time, scaffold builders, insulators, and painters. They couldn't go to work because the plants were shut down. They all had emergency outages. All that stuff had been flushed underneath. And so the company, not just the workers, but multiple of the vice presidents from the company and the guys that worked at the job site were at my house the day they allowed us back into our neighborhood,
Wow.
which was 5 days later. Now, that's how long we had standing water in. And they were there to muck out my house, immediately had all the sheetrock, everything tore down to the studs, all the other shit carried out to the street, to where by the end of that very first day, my house was drying out. And anybody that's been through a flood situation knows that's the most important thing, is you've got to get it out and get it dry before the water's had a chance to, have its effect, especially with mold and all the other things.
Yep.
That. And that company allowed me to work on getting my house back up and running, get contractors lined out to come through and start to do the rebuild, all the things they could do. But on top of providing those things, which really, financially made a big difference for me, the fact that those guys showed up and they were in there swinging hammers, knocking out the sheetrock too, that let me know exactly the type of guys that I was working with.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a number, in a group of employees. They actually cared about me, and they cared about my family, and they cared about those workers too, because the guys that were on the crew, they weren't getting a paycheck whenever the plant wouldn't let them come to work. But the company paid them to come to my house and tear those things out. So it was just like such an awesome opportunity to really see people's hearts in the right place, that I benefited from it. So it felt like it was the right place. But it made such a difference to me and my family that I will never, ever forget that about the company and especially those guys that showed up.
Oh yeah, man. For us, man, my daughter was born 2 days before the pandemic. I was already at home, right? And I already wanted to take a month off, right? So I was off for a month, and then 12 hours before I was supposed to fly back, my boss calls me and he's like, "Hey, don't come back. You don't fly back. We're gonna lay you off." He's like, "You stay home. Anyone that's gonna fly in and out of the province and across the country, like, we're just keeping home. Being on a plane is not safe." I'm like, "Okay." So I was at home, but the deal was, he's like, while you're laid off, he's like, "We're gonna let you keep your benefits, your health and stuff like that," right? So he's like, "Take it. You know what? Like, enjoy your family, relax, chill out." So I'm like, "All right, cool." When I went back, I lost, I think it was 20% or something like that of my pay. It took 20, which ended up being like $2. I lost $2, something like that. It was like $2. I ended up being cut back, but I stayed busy, right? So like, it was keep my $2 and not have any work, or lose that $2 and keep going, right? And it was like, fuck it, you know what? I'll do that. And we were a little slow, but we managed to stay, consistent, And then when it came back and started getting busy again, I got my $2 back with a 250 with a $2.50 raise on top of it. So it was like, hell yeah, man. They appreciate it. I was willing to take my cut, do my part, and then I got rewarded with it at the end, right? Yeah. Now fast forward to inflation being out of control and what it is. If you don't receive a 3% pay raise this year, you're taking a pay cut.
That's right.
That's insane.
Yep. But you have to look at the big picture of those things. And look, nobody wants to go in and make this political. We're not, campaigning for one party versus the next. But there's so much in life that plays into that effect. That at the end of the day, all these decisions that are made by those that we elect to whatever position that they're running for, at the end of the day, the decisions that they make has an impact on you and your family, and 100%. It could affect your company. And so the good thing about the private sector of choosing where you work is you have the opportunity to move. But whenever you have things like inflation, like you're talking, there is no escape from inflation for no one, right? And so I don't think any job that is recession proof. There might be some that get hit by the recession at a later stage or to a lesser impact, but you're all going to be affected by it somewhere. So, as everyone's looking for who they're going to support, where they're going to spend their time and effort and actually get involved in things, think about the ones that make the difference for you, your family, and your employer. Uh, at the end of the day, all companies aren't evil. All corporations aren't bad. There's good people, there's bad people, and you just need to be able to sort through the bullshit and understand whether people are telling you the truth or not, and
Yep.
whether your values align with theirs or not.
Yep. Yeah. Everyone's got different values. Like these people over here, they might thrive where the company's actually shit, right? You never
Yep.
know. And it might not be that the company's shit. It just doesn't line up with your values, right? Like you just said, right? They're not just shit. They're not shit. They're just shit to you,
That's right.
right? Right. And it's like everywhere has bullshit, right? Where everyone's like, "Oh, I don't want to. I'm not appreciated at this job." Well, how's your attitude, right? Because is your attitude affecting how they're treating you? You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. Those people generally tend to have a bad experience almost everywhere they go. I've worked with those guys too, where they're on their sixth job in the last couple of months, and it's like, shit, man, maybe it's you, you know?
It's kind of back to that romantic relationship thing again, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
ever that person that's had 5 or 6 marriages?
Whew.
Were they all crazy along the way, or what's the common factor between all these relationships?
Yeah, man. When my dad and his second wife they split, my dad was like, "Wow, she's crazy, right? She's crazy. Yeah, she's crazy." Well, I watched that relationship unfold over the course of my life, right? And I was 6 years old when that relationship started. I was almost 20 when it ended, or I was over 20 when it ended. And it's like, bro, you played a hand in that woman being crazy, you know what I mean? She wasn't always that way, and you weren't always an asshole either. She played a hand in that too. There's three sides to every story,
That's
right?
right.
But yeah, dude, no, yeah, it's kind of nuts. Yeah, it's wild. I never really brought it down or related, the whole relationship with your spouse to the relationship with your boss before, but that's yeah.
We even try to think about that as some of the guidance that what we want to do with the software, the recruiting, and everything that we do for job placement, right? I think some people that get matching stuff pretty well have been a lot of the dating apps that have come out, right? Because you're able to go through and kind of build, this checklist of things that you like, things that you don't like, what you're looking for. Guess what? There's Match.com, there's farmersonly.com, there's seniors only, there's all these other groups, but there's these people that have identified what they're looking for. And there's other
Yep.
people that are coming in that are looking for the same thing, and hopefully they get matched up with something that brings them together.
Are we
Guess
talking
what?
like a Tinder for
Well,
work, for
think about it.
workplace?
Tinder is another group. The people
Shit.
that are on Tinder have a different motivation than the people that are on Match.com.
Oh.
But guess what? There's two sides of that community all the time too. I guess these days sometimes 3 and 4. It kind of depends on how freaky you get.
Man
But
seeking man for position at job. Swipe right if you think this boss is the one for you.
but think about how people go into those situations. They go in knowing what they want, what turns them on. Right?
Oh yeah, you're not wrong.
So if you're going to be
Damn.
honest with yourself and you take that serious, man, I'm going to take pretty serious where I'm going to go to work too. Kind of the same thing. Sometimes I'm going to be happy with just the job that's going to give me the most hours with the most pay for the next 2 months because I'm at a point in my life where that's what's important to me now. And then other times I think, I want a little bit more stability. I want to make good money with a good opportunity, but I'm looking for something that I can have 10 years or more with. Guess what? Tinder and Match aren't the same thing.
I'm
Project
looking for
work,
Christian
retention.
mingle, Christian
Yeah,
mingle,
exactly.
get me one of them pastor jobs. Looking for friends with benefits. looking for a short term thing, hey, I'm here to fool around and have some fun. Let's see where it goes. You show up for a couple weeks, get a couple paychecks. Next thing you know, you're invested for 20 years. Shit.
It turned out the way I was hoping.
Damn. Wow, man, that's just blows my mind. I love that.
What's all
Uh
those simple things, you know? I mean, look,
yeah,
just like everything else in life, I don't know that we're thinking of anything or doing anything that hasn't been done before or you can't take examples from.
yeah.
But whenever you take those examples and experience and you try to improve it and create something better or a better way of doing things, a more efficient way of making decisions, more efficient way of connecting people, then you have something special. And if it's something that's simple, people tend to resonate with it a whole lot better because
Oh yeah.
it can't be too complicated or nobody's going to spend the time
I
to
don't
get
want to.
involved.
I don't want to think about it. I just want to do
Yeah,
it. Right? Like,
exactly.
yeah, exactly, man. Hey, I don't want to keep you too much longer there, bud. Hoss,
Okay.
yeah, I love that shirt.
Oh,
Uh,
thanks.
I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I got one more question for you here, and I like to wrap the podcast up with this question, and it stumps a lot of people. So, Mount Rushmore has four of the most influential people, or influential people on it, in maybe in the history of it, of everything. Um, if you could have your own Mount Rushmore and like four people that you look up to, inspire to be like, or inspire you, who would they be and why?
Man, I've not had that question before, so let me think about that for a minute. But I tell you, one person that I think should be up there to begin with is Milton Friedman,
Milton Friedman. Okay.
which he was, great economist and kind of started with his mindset in one place and kind of changed his positions over life. And I think it's a good example, but had a great understanding of ways to make things relatable to the everyday man.
Yeah.
And so it's a great aspect there. Might as well go ahead and piss off a bunch of people and say I'd love to put Donald Trump up there.
You're not the
Make
first
America
person.
great. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Donald Trump, but I'd really just like to say that to piss everybody off that's against him anyway. So be number two. Um, yeah.
Did you see the video that came out the other day about January 6th that the media didn't air, where Donald Trump told everyone to go home? He's like, "Hey,
Oh yeah.
we'll live to fight another day. This is not
Yes.
go home. You go home. This is over with, right? Like, we'll live to fight another day." And the media didn't show it. Nothing. Nobody. And it came out the other day, right? And that blows my mind that they're trying to pin that on him as for being an insurrectionist when he's like, "Hey, it's over. Go home."
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Just everything there. I just see that as manufactured division. And seems to be the
Oh,
figurehead that the people that want to create division, want to point to make him the sacrificial lamb to do that.
in his attempt to drain the swamp, he lifted the logs, right?
Yeah.
And he exposed what was in the swamp. Now he couldn't necessarily drain it, but maybe part two, you know what I mean? The remix, right? But I don't like talking politics, and I'm not really a fan of any side, right? They're both
Mm-hmm.
fucking stupid. So like, um, I'm a big fan as a Canadian of Vivek Ramaswamy, right?
Yes.
And he said some shit a couple months back where he said, "I Donald Trump wanted to drain the swamp. He couldn't do it, but he exposed what was in it." And he's like, "I know where he went wrong, and I know where I can complete what he wanted to do." Now, Vivek isn't gonna. I pay attention to American politics a lot more than my own, but Vivek, he's not
That's a
gonna.
whole shit show of its own.
He's not gonna. Oh, he won't. He won't win the presidency or the candidacy to run. But I think he would make a great VP to Trump. So
Oh yeah, I hope so. I like a lot of what I hear from that campaign, from his position, and just having someone with a different set of experience coming in from something more than just a career politician.
yeah,
Um, I started out my life from early stages of being conservative, and I was, really thought there was only conservative and uh, progressive, and that was the only two things, and there was nowhere in between. And as I've gotten older, I really kind of started to find out I'm more libertarian, even than I am conservative. I just want to do what is right. Leave me alone. I don't want anyone making those decisions for me, and I want
Yep.
others to have that opportunity too. But in any case that you look, whether you're on the left wing side or the right wing side of things these days, I think anything that's establishment has such been tarnished so much because there's an opportunity for corruption
Yeah.
for both sides, and it becomes this um, self survival type mentality whenever they get worried about their next position, going to work as a lobbyist, private interest, and all these other things that. And if the government would just get out of the way and stop trying to divide people into the different
Yeah.
tribes,
Yeah,
I
man.
think everyone would be a lot happier, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, live and be
100%.
free, you know?
I think
Yeah.
left wing, right wing, they're just two wings of the same bird. You know, I used to be, so back when I was a kid, right, back in high school, you know, liberal. I was indoctrinated. The school system indoctrinated the shit out of me, and I was like, fuck yeah, right? I get out of high school. I voted liberal. You know, and then the next one, you know, I became part of the working class, started working and having to earn my shit, paying taxes. I voted conservative, right? And then I voted, you know, in the middle. I voted NDP, which is, I don't know even know how to describe them now, but they're far more left wing than they used to be. Right? This ain't your granddaddy's NDP anymore, but when they were more center at this point in time. So I voted for them there, and now like I don't even know if I want to vote.
Man, you guys have an awesome candidate that's coming up now. The guy who was eating the apple, and the reporter came up to him and said, you know,
Yeah.
why are you such a racist? Why are you such, you know, this or that? He's like, when did I say that? I can't remember that guy's.
Pierre
Yeah.
Poilievre. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I think he's part of the Uniparty. I don't know, man. I want to be a believer. I do. It's just politics, dude. It's so like
I dig his style, though. You know,
I dig his
got to be
style.
substance behind it for sure.
I dig his style, but here's the thing, right? He's built his whole image on just bashing Trudeau, right? And I get it. I hate Trudeau too. I want to bash the shit out of him all the time, right? But like, move away from that style of politics. Let's focus on what the people want and need. Stop bashing the shit out of that guy. Don't make your whole personality about disliking this guy, right? Like nobody likes him anyways. Nobody likes him anyways. Just fucking run your race. Forget about him. Run your race. And he's not doing that. He's making it all about bashing the other guy. But also, if I want to be logical about it, he's done a really good job at making the people believe that Trudeau's responsible for shit that isn't even part of Trudeau's responsibilities or roles. And the people are just eating it up, right? It's like, well, he's not even responsible. That's not his jurisdiction. That's not his responsibilities, right? Like, he didn't do that. That's not him, right? But, like, you can't say that because then everyone's like, oh, you must love Trudeau. You must be a Trudeau lover. And it's like, man, no, I'm just running on logic here, you know? Like,
that's right.
I don't give a shit.
That's very similar to the whole Donald Trump, you know, thing that can we say that I can agree with most of what somebody does and not 100% and be okay and 100%. Not be hated by either one? Just allow me to be myself and tell you what I agree with and what I don't.
I had a lesbian on the podcast a few weeks ago. I don't like her politics, but I didn't have the conversation with her for her politics. I like her content. I like her as a person.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
It's all about that, you know, and you know, fuck her politics. Her politics are dog shit. But she looks at me and probably thinks the same about me. That guy's politics are dog shit, right? So who cares?
They always make good drinking buddies when you have people with different opinions because that's whenever you really get interesting.
Oh yeah,
conversation. But man, that's the spice of life. That's what you have fun with. You should be exposing yourself to people with different mindsets all the time. 100%. You need to challenge those things. There is so much shit these days that I thought I had figured out 10 and 15, 20 years ago that I know I was wrong on. That's part of the reason I've gone from, you know, a conservative mindset to a libertarian. Hopefully I don't go all the way to liberal, but you know, there's been this balance of trying to find the way, and who knows, but yeah, anytime you just kind of surround yourself with people that think exactly the same way you stop challenging yourself.
So
Make
is
that thought.
libertarian not quite Democrat?
Well, libertarian is more. It's not Democrat. I wouldn't say Democratic. And look, I think you're going to have probably some people that are Democrats that would more closely align with libertarian than they would with conservative. So it's closer to the middle for
So
most of the things.
that's
But
NDP. Yeah.
yeah, it's straight up. Be free. Think for yourself. Don't be as wrapped up around the social issues and allow them to divide everyone that it has. And then look for principles for economics and things that
That's what the
make sense to
NDP
you.
used to be. The NDP here used to be that, right? And then they moved so far to the left, right? Like that's if you were going to be a centrist in like let's fuck when was this 2010? If you're in 2010, if you were going to be a centrist, you would vote. You'd be a libertarian, I guess. In Canada, it would be NDP, right? But nowadays, I think the conservative government that we have here, like Pierre, is more centrist than anything. And then if you really want to go really far to the left, you go the Max Bernier. You go PCP or whatever. The yeah, that is considered like right now that'd be considered extremist, right? Extremists on the right, and then what our current government is extremists on the left. So,
yep,
yeah.
I have my third Mount Rushmore.
All right.
We'll put a Canadian up there.
Oh,
Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson. Shit.
Big fan.
Yeah. I don't mind his podcast. You know, sometimes it's hard to listen to, but like sometimes it's not. So.
Yep. Yeah, I like his whole thought process about finding challenge, improving yourself, not being too tied up, having the idea that you're going to learn more in the position that you hold today could be changed tomorrow based on the evidence that is available tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think that kind of ties back together to so many of the other things that we're talking through.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I don't know. There's the podcast. I don't know. Did you listen to Vivek Ramaswamy's episode with Jordan Peterson?
Oh no, I haven't heard that one yet. I did hear Vivek on another one, and I've heard several of the pieces that he's done, but I haven't heard that one yet.
He also did an episode with the guy that directed or made The Sound of Freedom.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That was a really good one. That was a really good episode. Actually, I went to go see The Sound of Freedom shortly after listening to that. There's a reason why Hollywood didn't want to touch that movie, right? And now we're finding out why.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. My wife and I just watched it about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's on thing now. Yeah, it's on one of those streaming services.
Prime.
Yeah, it's on Prime. Yeah. I really enjoyed that movie. My wife doesn't want to watch it because she's like, I don't want to never be left alone again. Like she wants some alone time without the kids once in a while, right? She's like, if I watch that, I'm never leaving them alone.
Yep. Might be a chance for her to watch that later.
Yeah. I'm gonna make her watch it at some point, but like, I went to the movie theater by myself to see it, so it was a really good film. Short, like small budget and shit like that, but it got the point across. It made me tear up a couple times. It was like it made me sick to my stomach.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, man.
Yep. So I think I'm going to stop my Rushmore with just those three.
All right.
I have a different look to it these days, but I think those would be the three people I would put up.
Do you know what? I recently learned about Mount Rushmore, and I've been asking this question for a year now. And what I recently learned about Mount Rushmore, I can't remember the name of the guy that built it, but it was stopped. He stopped building it prior to World War II because he went away to fight in World War II, right? Mount Rushmore, there's so much room in the rock to add more, but no more will ever be added, right? The son didn't want to continue on his dad's work, and the dad figured, like, who really is worthy of being up there now, right? And yeah, it's pretty wild. I read up on that like a couple weeks ago, actually. I can't remember his name, but it's a pretty interesting story. You should Google it when we're done.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on and taking your time out.
Thanks for having me. Been great to
Yeah,
visit
man.
with you and catch up.
Yeah, man, this is great, and I love what you guys are doing over at Boom Nation and the Trench. I didn't realize the two were intertwined, right? I didn't know one was the other, right? I was like the Trench, yeah, and then when you get looking into it, it's like the Trench is Boom Nation, right?
That's right.
And
Yeah,
I love that.
that's awesome. Yeah, we
Yeah, man.
have the pages for Boom Nation, the Trench, and Long Live the Trades. And so, if you see any of those names coming across, that's all us, all one and the same, just
Oh,
different
you guys,
pieces that we push out.
hell yeah, man! I appreciate you coming on, bud. Thanks a lot.
Well, thanks, Dick. It's been great to visit with you. Thanks for
Hell
the
yeah,
opportunity.
man. Hell yeah, man. Hey, and hey, stay frosty.
That's it.